What's up, folks? Friday Live coming at you. If it's your first time here, drop a comment. Say first time. If you're a veteran, you know what you got to do. Drop a comment. Tell me how you're doing. And today we're going to be looking at a few things related to the Veteran Wellbeing Act. Posted something on X the other day and seemed to have got a lot of people's attention. Usually they don't, but this one seemed to have struck a nerve. So I want to get into it. And you know what? The synchronicities keep on piling up. And yesterday I got an email from Blake Richards, who's an MP in the Kitchener area. I believe it's Kitchener area. And he's the shadow minister for Veterans Affairs. And he sends out a monthly email. And it just so happens there's a parliamentary committee and there was a document that was published not too long ago that he shared with those that are on his mailing list. I highly recommend you get on it. I'll show you how to do that in a second. Talking about the Veteran Wellbeing Act and talking about how all the veterans that have come after Korea are basically not war veterans. And what that means for long-term care and how VAC is just a complete hot mess of services and case managers, and it just creates a dog's breakfast. So, guys, I want to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors. Firm Tech is our latest sponsor, and they are a cock ring producer. They sell cock rings to dudes that, especially like us veterans, have a hard time, no pun intended, have a much better quality of life. So shout out to Firm Tech for today's episode. If you'd like to get a 15% discount, I'm going to be dropping a link here in the description once this is published that you can go get your Firm Tech ring to make sure that you don't have a coronary heart event. So you don't have a heart attack early on. These things actually give you real-time data because your dick is more important than you think. It can actually save your life. So go check them out. And thanks to Becoming Ohm as well for today's live broadcast. I just got back 2 months ago from their retreat in Mexico doing BJJ and plant medicine and continue to do their plant medicine course online. They are a awesome group of people out in Mexico doing good work with veterans and first responders. And if you want to know more about their week-long retreat called Operation Flow State, drop me a message or head to becoming.ohm on Instagram and drop them a message with the word hard to kill or the phrase hard to kill, and they'll sort you right out. So let's not forget, we've got Nick from Corporal for Life. We've partnered up doing a little collab action where we're making a sticker. Got mine right here. Limited edition collab between the Hard to Kill podcast and Corporal for Life. If you like podcasts, if you like Corporal for Life, if you like both of us, go grab yourself a sticker. They're on his site right now. You can pick one up for $10. Part of the proceeds goes to Warrior Adventures Canada that takes veterans out on adventures in the wilderness to help them reintegrate back into society. Shout out to John and his team at Warrior Adventures Canada. Right. We've also got, man, we got so much going on. We've got so much going on. We've also got book launch for Harden to Fuck Up. My new book right here. Okay. On Saturday at Indigo Books in Point Claire, we'll be doing a book launch. I just confirmed today. We're still on. We're still good to go from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you're in the Montreal area, I'd love to see you. I'll sign a book. I got to sell 15 to get it on consignment in the store. So that means we'll have my book in an actual big boy bookstore. If we get that total achieved of 15 books sold, I'm sure we're going to be able to make that happen. And Tuesday, I'll be on Terry and Ted's podcast. So if you guys are Montrealers, you'll likely know Terry and Ted in the morning. So they're going to be hosting me on their show on Tuesday to talk about the book launch. And I can't wait. And love to see you out there. If you haven't got your copy of the book yet, can't make it to Montreal, then I encourage you to go to Amazon, type in Harden to Fuck Up, and you can get your audio, Kindle, or paperback copy. Strongly recommend getting the audiobook. I read it. I think it's pretty good, but that's just my opinion. Love to know what your opinion is. And when you do get your copy in, if you have a copy already, please drop a comment, drop a rating. Okay, this 2-star rating, I gotta blast it. I gotta blast it out of here. I already went over it last episode on how the 2-star rating actually promotes my book better than a 5-star rating because it is literally made for veterans with ADD. So it's short, to the point, take action. So therefore, if you are a veteran or not, but if you want a bunch of actionable stuff that you can do to harden up, that's not just based on go grabbing a barbell and getting stronger. It's actually about like developing the mindset, developing the nutrition, developing the whole shebang and bang to make you harder to kill based on all the awesome guests I've had on the show, then you definitely want to go get that book. Okay. So folks, we've got people trickling in here. Welcome to the live stream. I don't know how long I'll be because it is, it's the last day of school for the kids. Maybe it's the last day of school for you. You have young kids. So I'm going to be heading back because we're going to be doing some like last day of school stuff. I don't know if you remember like the joyful exuberance of what it's like to have a last day of school. Because I mean, once you're at school, right, every day is just a day, right? But man, those days were awesome. I remember when I was a kid, like that last day, because it's just freedom, right, for the rest of the summer. So they're going to want to go in the pool. They're going to camp on Monday, and then got a bunch of stuff going on. We're going on trips and stuff like that. So they're fired up. So we'll go home and enjoy that excitement while we still can before they're out of the house and doing their own thing in a few years. It's happening soon. So the next thing I want to touch on is the email from Blake Richards. You should probably join his mailing list. It's actually quite good. And I'll just pull it up here. So I believe you can join his email list if you just type in Blake Richards on in your browser. You can go join his email list. It's actually relatively easy, and you can get an email just to see what's up. He's a member of Parliament, so he keeps people informed. One of the principles of leadership, right? Keep the troops informed. And sure, he's got a new chair elected for Veterans Affairs Committee. That's great. Standing up the Persian Gulf and for Persian Gulf and Afghanistan veterans. This is what I wanted to touch on, because one of the things that's been bugging me is the fact that we haven't been deemed, I guess, worthy of the warfighter title here in Canada, because there's this new charter that came out that I'm slowly realizing probably it wasn't in our best interest, but we don't have anybody to stand up for our community. We have no real organization. We don't have the nonprofits like the Americans have. We don't have the equivalent of like a Grunt style foundation that can show up en masse and do a letter writing campaign, and people show up at MPs' offices and be like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, that new bill you're trying to pass? Yeah, we're not really excited about it. Maybe you can make some amendments." I don't think you're thinking about us when you're trying to pass this new bill. We get railroaded. And that's got to end. We got to organize. And so I like what Blake has to say here. Now, on the political side of things, okay, I'll just make a caveat here. Like, politicians are here to serve us. And I think the Canadian sentiment is the opposite. I think we feel that we serve the politicians, and it's obviously rearing its ugly head. We abdicate our responsibility and our well-being to authority. We're comfortable with that, but it's not working. It doesn't work. And especially as a veteran, the hard thing is to realize that there's no top-down system for you anymore. Like, you're in charge. You got to advocate for yourself. Nobody really comes down and says like, hey, you got to do this, because you're out. That's not the job of Veterans Affairs. You're not in the military anymore. You don't have a commanding officer. You're the commanding officer. You got to figure that shit out. And that mindset is hard to adopt, especially if you've been institutionalized for 25 years, 30 years. It's even hard for me. I was a reservist. Says, okay, well, whatever the government says, I'm going to listen. It's the policy, right? I got to follow policy. You got to follow the rules. And then you realize, well, they're probably not serving me very well. And then once you break free of that, then you can start working on your own shit and start building your own protocols. And in this case, like a health protocol. But to go back to what this all is centered around is the fact that Persian Gulf veterans, like the first Gulf War, right? Basically, nobody recognized them. It's a travesty. Medak pocket veterans, nobody recognized them. The list goes on and on. The fact that we send our troops into battle and then have them come home and be like, yeah, okay, well, especially reservists too. Okay, well, go home. See ya. Thanks. That's the attitude. It causes a lot of pain, man. A lot of pain. And the fact that just legally we're not seen as having fought a war doesn't sit well with me. I mean, I don't know about you folks, but especially if you're a GWOT veteran, pretty sure I was in a war. Now, you can try and gaslight me as much as you want, but I'm pretty confident the incoming rockets, small arms fire, and playing IED tag with a uniform that had the Canadian flag on it and a gun, pretty confident it was in the war. Now, you can call it a police action. You can call it an emergency, a war emergency. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it, I'm going to call it war. I'm going to stick to that as my definition. I identify as a war veteran. I identify as having fought in the war. That's the word game we're playing these days. And I'm sure you do too. So let's look at what they're saying here in short, and then we'll get into the actual document that I'll put here as a link to. It's a House of Commons document, so everybody has access to it. So the longtime followers of the committee will recall the number of studies which were conducted over the past year by the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs and the subsequent reports which the committee tabled to the House of Commons. First action taken in committee, taken this week by Conservatives, was to retable two reports which did not receive a government response due to the proroguing of Parliament earlier this year by Justin Trudeau. Yeah, these ding dongs haven't been at work like over a year. Anyways, it's not the point of this chat. Specifically, there was a comprehensive study completed on the designation of wartime service, especially as it pertained to the veterans of the Persian Gulf and Afghanistan, as well as a study on the challenges veterans face in their transition to civilian life. With both reports sent to the House of Commons and with Conservative supplemental reports adding to them, the committee unanimously approved both Conservative motions and have called on the government to review these reports and table a response back to the committee. When those responses come back, we will be sure to share them with you here. In the meantime, you can find both reports below by clicking on their titles. Okay, so I've got these pulled up right now. So let's go to these. So the first one I'm going to look at: reforming transition from military civilian life. All right. And list of recommendations, mandate. Go to the mandate here. Next page, next list of recommendations. Okay, recommendation 1, that regardless of the type of release, Canadian Armed Forces release members only once their access to a family physician has been confirmed by the relevant provincial authorities. So the way this is worded, like before you release, like this has to be in place. Okay. Veterans have been informed of all career transition programs, and all applications for such programs have been adjudicated. CISIP disability benefit claims have been adjudicated, and if applicable, vocational programs have been approved. All decisions regarding all applicable VAC programs and services have been made, and they have received a copy of their service record. So that's recommendation one. So yeah, let's get into that, man. This is really interesting because regardless of the type of release, so whether it's a medical release, whether it is dishonorable, I guess, whether it's just voluntary, you have to have all these in place. Now, this does not show any difference in, class of service. So class A, B, C, or reg force. So this presumably means that if you're a reservist, like the recommendation is that, yeah, regardless of the type of release, the Canadian Armed Forces members only one. So that means anybody's in Canadian Armed Forces, reservists included, have to have this all in place. This has been one of the biggest like points of contention is that, okay, the reg force gets a shit ton of these services, like just crammed down their throats. And essentially you can just choose to ignore it, but it's there. The scan seminars, people are making sure you're taken care of. As a reservist, you just fuck off and you're done. I didn't know shit about shit. I didn't know what programs I had to do. I didn't know I didn't know anything. And so it took years for me to actually know that there's a system in place. Having deployed, having come back, having been injured, everything, didn't know that I should have been covered, didn't know I should have gone through a system, didn't know anything. That is a huge gap. And I don't think any recommendation is actually going to address that because the reserves is such a chaotic disaster when it comes to release, especially for those that deployed. This is going to take a huge undertaking. So anybody that's listening out there that is in a position of leadership, I would love to have a conversation about this because this was completely unacceptable in terms of release. And it's been the case for forever, right? You deploy as a reservist, you do exactly the same job as a reg force guy, but then you're responsible for all your rehab. You're responsible for taking care of yourself and getting a job after going on EI. The list goes on and on and on. And then when you get out, nobody gives a flying fuck that you're leaving. Your unit's just like, oh, okay, well, here's your release papers. Like, make sure you have your mucklooks turned in. That's it. So that's going to be a huge recommendation to uphold and to have a family physician. So this is one of the big points that I want to hammer home and get action taken on. That how do we get a physician when just an regular Canadian can't get a physician? Where is the physician going to come from? So my argument is pretty straightforward. If we're going to do this, we need to have our own veteran health services. We closed down the hospital here, just down the street. Of course we did, right? I got to save money. Got to save money. We got all kinds of money for Ukraine, but sorry, no money for doctors in a veteran health service here. So we have to go back into the provincial system, and that just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. How are you going to get that doctor? It's not going to happen. So I don't know. They go into a little bit more detail in the paper here. So I'll save my criticism till we get to that part because I want to go with recommendation 2. Department of National Defense amend the eligibility criteria for the service income security. So this is CISIP. I got an episode coming out just on this alone. CISIP is sketchy as fuck. Just FYI, we've taken it and just accepted it as like part of the transition process. I'm going to be digging into this. I'm getting some research done by a buddy of mine. I'm going to be presenting it here on the podcast because you need to be informed. I wasn't informed. Actually, I would say 99% of us aren't informed. What is CISIP and what is its role? It's not good. And then recommendation 3, that the Canadian Armed Forces sign a memorandum of understanding with the Royal Canadian Legion to enable Legion services officers to be embedded within the transition centers. Yeah. Okay. But man, the Legion is so fucked, man. Like it's so hit and miss. It's like volunteers. It's crusty old people that just, and again, if you're going to rely on the Legion, do you have anybody from the GWOT that's going to be there? Because I'll be honest, I don't want to talk to Roberta, who's like 75 years old and doesn't know shit about what I've gone through or like have any idea what a veteran is. And just like, they might be sweet as hell, but like, I'll be honest, I never went through the Legion because I was so disappointed in their level of care and service. It was just terrible. So if the Legion is going to be that organization, they better sort their shit out. Plain and simple. So I don't know if they're relying on the Legion because they want to give them a job, but they better sort their shit out if they're going to be the go-to institution at the transition centers to actually help with transition. And then recommendation 4, the Armed Forces ensure that the victim of sexual misconduct can present the facts promptly to someone outside the chain of command. and that this testimony can be used to support claims for benefits and services that may later be filed with Veterans Affairs Canada. Okay, fair enough. So those are the list of recommendations, and there's a few really good points here. It's a very lengthy document, as you can tell. So I won't go into like great detail on it, but there are a few key points that I wanted to bring up. It in the last 10 years. So can I highlight this? There's an average of 8,200 CAF members released on a yearly basis. Whoa, that's wow. Of this number, between 2,000 to 2,500 are released for medical reasons, which represents between 1/4 and 1/3 of releases, depending on the year. This proportion is significantly higher among women in the military, exceeding 40%. So, yeah, the complaint is that the case managers are overwhelmed. Yes, okay, but not my problem. This means that more CAF members are making the transition to civilian life each year, and a higher proportion of them are being released for medical reasons. The increase in turnover within the CAF has led to increased pressure on VAC, which is receiving a higher number of applicants for disability benefits and requests for adapted services for veterans who experience difficulties during their transition. So, according to data from 2016, approximately 1/3 of veterans had trouble adjusting to civilian life. Yeah, I'm one of them. Like, I went through what, 7, like 8 jobs. Like, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. According to data published in 2019, this proportion has increased to 39%. Surprisingly, more than half of these veterans were not medically released. I mean, I don't know why they're surprised. Like, they're surprised. Like, you don't have to be medically released to have a hard time transitioning. I mean, anyways, listen to the podcast, guys. Like, seriously, listen to the podcast. To address the increase in the growing complexity of the needs, in 2019, CAF and VAC began testing a new transition model that would integrate VAC within CAF transition centers and provide assistance to CAF members for the release date. So according to Mr. Harris, this approach affects releasing members and will be fully operational by the end of 2024. Okay. Well, I mean, I worked in the transition center, and I'll bring up an obvious point that should be made clear. When I'm coaching people, I make a very strong point that I don't coach people on things I don't know. So I know how to get ready for an Ironman. I've done it. I know how to teach people to get bigger arms. I've done it. I know how to improve people's endurance. I know how to get ready for a, infantry course, phase 3, whatever. I've done all of those things. I know how to make it happen, and I know how to train you in order to get there. The transition center is a weird, I shouldn't say the transition center, but I should say the CAF transition unit. So CAF TG, is that it? Transition group. It's full of serving members explaining how to do your transition. They haven't transitioned out of the military themselves. While I was there, I was like, this is a weird organization. Why is the military even bothered with this? And then I had the other thought too. Well, okay, well, if this is the case, then why isn't CAF just the ones that take care of veterans all the way through? So you have no VAC, you just have the CAF, get rid of VAC, and then you have all the support staff and those that are actually working with veterans as actually military members, knowing that at one point they're going to be on the other end of that. So they're going to want to make sure that everybody in the pipeline is treated like super well. I don't know. Is that a crazy idea? It's like we wall off our garden. We say, no. We're in charge of our folks from, cradle to grave. So VAC, let's get rid of you because all the bureaucrats in there, you suck. Let's just take care of our own from all the way to the end. So I'm sure you'd have people in the CAF that'd be willing to do that job. And it was just food for thought. So that being said, I don't know if this model works. I don't know if any other country is doing it. I think it's well intentioned, but I just saw such glaring problems while working in it that I just don't know if it's going to solve. Like you can't solve somebody's broken heart when leaving the forces because the institution just sucks and like it's not what you thought it was going to be, and it just let you down. Transition services doesn't fix that. You know, all the programs that doesn't fix it. So, moving on. We have some comments. We do have some comments. Can you provide a link to the chat? I don't know what chat you're talking about. Can you clear it up? CHB 2022. I've moved along, so I don't quite know which one you're talking about. The medical release process. Although those who leave voluntarily often face difficulties, the majority of VAC clients are medically released CAF members. When a member suffers an injury or illness, whether or not it is related to their service, it can lead to a medical release. Yes, we all know that. So regular force members are not subject to the Canada Health Act. So the CAF provides health care that they otherwise would have received from provincial systems. Reserve force members are still covered by provincial and territorial healthcare. So yes, that's good. For mental health services, D&D has established a network of 7 operational trauma and stress support centers, OTSSCs. I never heard of those. I've heard of the OSI clinic. Once a CAF member's medical condition stabilizes, usually after a few months, temporary medical category. Yeah, we all know TCATs and PCATs and all that stuff. So they're just going over like, hey, this is what the process is like. Then as we're moving on here, I wanted to quote, yeah, they have a quote here. So, so a need for personalized approach. And we have a quote here, I believe, is this the one from Mark? Given that transition difficulties are not always associated with healthcare issues, it's important to be aware that unique aspects of life in the military in order to understand the scope of these difficulties. Mr. Hughes explains as follows. During service, support was available to them. They know where to go to ask questions and seek help. Professional development occurred throughout military training, deployments, and postings. They were scheduled for them. They were told where and when to go, how to get there, what to wear, and how to style their hair, etc. So really giving us kind of a lowdown, like what, but now you're out, like, what do we do? When military members become civilians again, they're no longer in a highly structured environment. Yes, we know that. And the importance of family, Canadian Armed Forces Transition Centers. They created a digital transition center. Okay, that might work. Okay, I like that. That's good. Post-release, access to family physician. This is where I want to get to. So all these programs are little use if veterans aren't able to tick the box. To tick box 1, meaning have access to a doctor. To access a program, you have to have a doctor. It's that simple. Yeah, and that's a quote. And that's what we're always bumping up against. If you want to get anything done, right, a form filled, you have to have a freaking doctor. And especially for a reservist, like just regular Canadians don't have doctors, man. I know guys that come to Quebec from out east to see a doctor because you can have private doctors here. That's bananas. So if you're a veteran and you're out east, like you're kind of like shit out of luck, right? There's just no doctors from what I can tell, from what I've heard anecdotally. And then you're not given any support or care from that system, because even my doctor, who I've been seeing for 15 years, still says the exact same. He's like, "Oh yeah, Dave, hey, good to see you. Yeah, you're in the RCMP, eh?" I was like, "No, man, I was in the Canadian, I was in the Army." "Oh yeah. So you were in Afghanistan." "Okay, yeah, right. Okay." I keep on bringing up the same thing over and over and over again, right? Because I mean, do I see him that often? No, maybe once a year at most. But he was private for the longest time, and that was great because I could get an appointment within a week. But he's no longer private, so he's public. So if I want to get a checkup, it's like 6-7 months. Like that's insane. But at least I have them. I'm not going to get rid of them. But that's long, man. And to get forms and stuff filled out, you have to constantly keep on calling back because they don't want to really fill out forms. They don't really have the time. Even for billing VAC to get the form filled out, it's really, they don't want it. They're complicated forms. A lot of them, they don't open properly. It's just a fucking nightmare. So the provinces hold the burden of this, but they don't even know that they have the burden of this. That's the thing that I'm gleaning from this. There was a part here that Mark Meinke wrote, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to highlight it, but he had some really good introspection. And I'm going to paraphrase. It's just like every time you need to go fill out a freaking form, and the form in of itself and the process of going through the stuff, especially if you're suffering from post-traumatic stress, is the thing that causes more post-traumatic stress symptoms. And that cycle keeps on going around and around and around and around and around. And then you get stuck with maybe a case manager who's a jerk, or they quit, or they get fired, or they go on mat leave. And you're like, all right, so I got to tell the same thing over again to this person. And then you have another service that's like PCVRS that you don't even know you're in. You're like, what is this? Who am I talking to? And you think it's a case manager, but they're actually an insurance agent trying to fuck you over. It's a nonstop cascade of management. It's just management on top of management on top of management. So ultimately, a thing like this is not saying anything new. They're essentially just bringing up the points that we've been talking about here, but at least now it's on the record. And I want to use this to really hammer home the point that we need physicians, and it needs to be in our own veteran healthcare system. Let's be honest. There's about 400,000 veterans in Canada, period. There's about 40,000 GWOT veterans that are now the ones that need the most amount of care, because we're the ones that are hurting the most, because we're A, the youngest, and B, we have the most amount of things that can be going wrong. Cancers, from toxic exposure, post-traumatic stress, brain tumors, like all the things are starting to flare up now, because it's been 10 years since we've stopped fighting these stupid wars. But now we got to take care of like the systemic issues that are metabolic, that were caused by the war. So we need to be able to see the specialists and the professionals that you just can't access in Canada through the public system. So you're going to beat your head against the wall as a veteran, be like, man, I got to go see the specialist for whatever. Be like, yeah, get in line, buddy. Be like, dude, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but like, I kind of like put everything on the line for this country. Could I at least have the respect of being able to see somebody a little bit faster than the average human being? I mean, it's hard for us to even ask for a little bit more help. We put everything on the line. We did exactly what the government wanted us to do. But then they're like, no, back of the line. Dude, back of the line. Oh, that doesn't sit well with me. I'm conflicted because I'm like, no, let somebody else. But really? We're going to let it. That's what gets me kind of a little bit fired up. So the other report is this one here. So this is the one on Persian Gulf War was a war. Nice. I agree. If you got your uniform on, you got a gun in your hand, you're in a war, man. So as we move through this here, I just pop this open. Here. So list of recommendations. The Veterans Affairs Canada abolished the category of wartime service veteran. Okay. In its policy on disability benefits in respect of wartime and special duty service, the insurance principle. See, it always comes down to insurance here in Canada. And list only those areas of conflict or military operations that qualify for disability compensation under the insurance principle. Recommendation 2. Okay, wait, hold on a sec. Shit. What does that mean? Recommendation 1. Veterans Affairs Canada abolished category of wartime service veteran. Right. So from what I'm understanding, that means because the wartime service veteran is veterans from World War I to Korea. After that, and I believe the first bit of Afghanistan, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody else is not a wartime service veteran, because that gives you a totally different access to pension. You don't go through PCVRS. You don't go through all this like management, right? Which is, from what I understand, grandpa's pension. where he never talked to a case manager. Grandma never talked to a case manager after he died. They just got their checks. Like grandpa was good. Give him my check. Good. All right. Carry on. And I'll be honest, I would freaking love that. Having gone through 6 years of just beating my head against the wall, having money stolen from me by VAC, saying that they're going to not take money from me and then do the exact opposite, having people threaten me on the phone for getting upset because God forbid I express emotion over a very frustrating process and being emasculated all the time by these women that just are not caregivers, right? And I say women, I post this on X. It's very emasculating for me to describe all this warfighter shit to a woman who goes, yeah, that's nice. Okay. They're not therapists. So why are you fucking asking me? Okay. I don't want to explain the same thing over to you and you do nothing essentially to make things better. So why am I being managed? Like, give me my check and get me the fuck out of here. That's essentially what this comes down to. But it's the management. The management is the process that is established to, in my opinion, ensure we don't get paid because you get upset, like, oh, not following the program. Oh, no, he's non-compliant. That's what I was being threatened with. Oh, you're going to be non-compliant? I'm like, go fuck yourself. I've been compliant for 6 years. I've been begging for you guys to help me out. So that's going to be interesting. Recommendation number 1, if they're going to do it. Recommendation number 2, that the Minister of Veterans Affairs introduce a bill amending section 69 and 70 of the Veterans Wellbeing Act to add the powers of the Minister of National Defense, the power to assign to past, present, and future military operations the following designation: War Emergencies Operation. When military operation takes place further to a proclamation of war emergency under the Emergencies Act, such a designation would be applicable to both the First and Second World Wars. Okay. War zone operation. When a military operation is carried out in defense of a state other than Canada, and the situation would likely have justified proclamation of war emergency by that state if the criteria of the Emergencies Act were in force there without a war emergency having been proclaimed in Canada. Such designation would be applicable to, among others, the Korean War, the Gulf War, the war in the former Yugoslavia, and the war in Afghanistan. Okay. Recommendation number 3. That the Department of National Defense provide a committee with a document explaining in greater detail the reasons for the policy prohibiting the dual recognition of medals and undertake a review of this policy. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think the reason why there's no VC that's been awarded to somebody like Jess La Rochelle is because the government has made it clear we didn't fight a war. Well, how do you give a Victoria Cross if we weren't in a war? I mean, logically, it's a travesty. It's a bunch of bean counters and pencil pushers that are making these decisions. But this is something that I really hope gets passed. I mean, these are all legal terms, but ultimately, like, did you fight in a war? Yes or no? I mean, war emergencies operation. Okay. War zone operation. At least the word war is there. You know, we didn't clearly based off this Gulf War, Yugoslavia, and Afghanistan wasn't a war. So then you get managed rather than your pension, rather than you just get managed to death. And like once you're on your deck, your depreciated earnings capacity, they can pull that from you at any time if they deem you to be like quote unquote better, or they sense that I don't know, I think you're making money somewhere else. Well, that means they're investigating you at all times. Like I had Jody on, right? The only politician that said anything against this was Pierre during the campaign trail. And he was like, why are we hamstringing veterans from making money? This doesn't make any sense. Like we only make $2,000. Who came up with that $2,000? When you're not part of this whole PCVRS deck, like VAC mess, you don't have any restrictions on your pension. Like if you're injured during the war and you just get your pension, man. That's it. Like imagine this applied to any other department in the federal public service. That they get their pension, but not quite. You have to check in. Oh, you can't make more money. Oh, sorry. No. The union would lose their shit. They lost their shit like a few years ago when everybody was losing their jobs because of COVID. They went out on the picket line like, oh, I need more respect. I need more money. And they got more money. Well, we don't have a union. We don't have anybody going to bat for us. So, like, the least they can do is just say, hey, dude, thanks for your service. Here's your check. Go do whatever the hell you want. Like, my grandfather didn't have to check in and be like, oh, I'm sorry. I made $15 more than I was supposed to. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please don't take away $15 from my benefit. Like, that's what it is. So I'll give you an example. Like right now, YouTube, this channel makes about $100 a month at most, right? Just from like the views and stuff like that. Thank you, by the way. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. It helps. Let's imagine a future down the road where this makes $2,000 a month. Does it take a monumental amount of effort for me to do it? No. Is it a full-time job? Absolutely not. But in VAC's eyes, I'm now no longer able to make my full benefit, and every dollar I make more than $2,000 gets clawed back. They're using a old, I guess, medieval way of thinking where if you're disabled, you can't be working, which means like physically, manually working, picking up boxes, but in today's world, I could create a course and sell it and make $30,000 a month. I mean, I haven't yet because I haven't figured that out. But why would you impede me or anybody else from being able to be crafty and use the modern economy to make more money that inherently goes back into the system and hire people, and like we generate more taxes because they love their tax dollars, right? I think that's counterproductive. For the very few that are going to do it, just let them do it. The overwhelming majority, like, you're going to get your check and you're just gonna be like, all right, cool, I'm going to do my thing, and that's that. I don't see why we're so overly managed. Recommendation 3 is that the Department of National Defense provide the committee with a document explaining in greater detail the reasons for the policy. Yeah, okay, I already said that. Dual recognition of medals. Yeah, agreed. I mean, general campaign start, cool. But shouldn't we have a NATO one as well? There's a NATO operation. Or there's just so many things that I don't understand why, like, guys that were on peacekeeping missions in Bosnia got more medals than us that fought in Afghanistan. I don't understand that. I don't. That doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. Recognition goes a long way, man. Like, if we can make sure that politicians understand, like, a medal on your chest, that's the thing. That's the thing. It means something. It's not the metal it's made out of. It's the fact that your country recognizes you for doing something. That's why we have them. That's why we put them on our uniforms, to show other people, hey, I did something. This recognition thing here in Canada's got to change too. So I'm glad that's there. Recommendation 4, the Veterans Affairs enter into immediate consultation with Gulf War veterans in order to implement, before the 35th anniversary of the Persian Gulf War in 2026, commemorative measures that will, in veterans' view, recognize the inestimable value of their service. Oh, okay, cool. Recommendation number 5, Veterans Affairs Canada recognize the the cluster of chronic symptoms referred to as Gulf War syndrome as a compensable medical condition that collaborate closely with Canada's allies, particularly the United States. Okay, I'm glad that's there, because next logical leap is the toxic exposure epidemic that we're just not talking about. I mean, there are guys that have already sued and won against VAC for weird cancers that 100% were related to burn pits. Now, because our absolute numbers are small, we don't have the luxury of and it's a morbid luxury of having a large sample size of people coming forward with weird cancers. But I'd argue that since pretty much all of us go to our provincial systems, And this is where the numbers and the studies need to really start coming out. If you do have a cancer that, and I'm in my 40s, the average age of this channel like is 44, and a dude. And if you fought in the GWOT, like if you or any of your friends are coming down with cancers and you're just like, ah, fuck, it's just, just the roll of the dice. I don't know, man. I really don't think so. I mean, we shouldn't be getting cancer in our 40s, like plain and simple, especially weird ones like malignant stuff. These awful cancers that like pop up seemingly out of nowhere. Healthy guys. I talked to a dude 3 weeks ago. He's getting out, but he's got a brain tumor. Oh fuck! Like healthy, fit, like Cansoft dude. Like, oh shit, that's not cool. So Gulf War syndrome, yeah, it needs to be. I mean, it was recognized by the Americans a while ago. So let's be honest, like it's time for us to catch up. Quinism from Mefloquine. You want to call it Afghanistan syndrome, whatever. I mean, like the Americans have done all this. The fact that we're still playing catch up and just we're still in the discussion phase. Gulf War I happened in the freaking 90s. We haven't even recognized the guys from a Dak pocket that were covered in whatever weird dust that they were digging in, that red dirt. They're all sick. How many times do we have to do this over and over and over again and not get the desired result? But again, I'll hammer home the point. We are not organized. So it's easy to pick us off one at a time. And unfortunately, time is on the government side. As morbid as it sounds, they can just wait and wait and wait. And then there's no pressure. There's no pressure. Eventually you'll die. They know that. They're just a cold bureaucracy. So the sicker you get, the better it is for them. They don't care. That's why we have to care. That's why we have to organize. That's why we have to get out there and start talking. All right. So comments flowing in. Let's see what we got here. ISB. I had better luck with my civvy doc getting a diagnosis. Not everyone is that lucky. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like one-offs, right? Like everybody's going to have their own experience. I mean, like I said, I was lucky. I had a private doc for the longest time. Same doc, but now he's not private anymore. If you don't have access to private, it's hard, man. So it's good that you had good luck with your civvy doc, but I guess few and far between. And like anecdotally, chatting with my buddies that they keep them in this, especially this PCVRS thing. I have to do an episode just on PCVRS. Clearly, their MO is to keep you in their system as long as possible because they're an insurance company, and so they keep on referring you to their providers. They keep on getting a kickback that keeps you in the system even longer because having to get referred to some like weird neurologist type thing there's none in Canada. So it's like, oh, you got to wait 8 months. Okay, cool. Well, you'll still be in our system, until you get that report done, then we can start considering. It's like, that's not going to happen. When is that going to 8 months? And then it might get canceled. It's just, so you're never out of that system. And that's not cool. Having been in the system for I was supposed to be in a 2-year program. I was in it for 6 years. How does that make any sense? Buddies are in it for 8 years. How does that make any sense? That's not helping the veterans. And it comes down to frontline care. Who's going to do the frontline care? And there's just nobody there. What about the 20K that you can earn that hasn't increased unless yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So the $2,000, so it's 20K. I said $2,000 a month, but yeah, it's 20K. And again, it hasn't gone up with inflation. So it just sits there. I have yet to find a rationale why it's 20K. It's an insult, in my opinion, because, and this, I retired as an officer. So my salary was, and I CFR'd, so a commission from ranks. So my LT salary was, is okay. But if you leave as a corporal or like a private, or even a master corporal, or an LT, just a LT1, LT. The IRB is not going to help. It's really not. If you get decked from that, and then it's like, okay, you can only make 2,000 extra. you're in a bad way, right? Thankfully, like I'm married. I have a wife that makes a good salary as well. So we're okay. And we live in Montreal in the suburbs, which isn't as bad as like Toronto or Vancouver or this isn't ever discussed. But these are the things that need to be discussed. 100%. Great point. Uh, 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 yeah. CCP owns our government. I'm certain of it. Flying pinned. I don't know about own. They don't need to own anything. They just need to convince a few politicians to do their own thing. Joe. Hey, the Governor General got 12 medals for what? Yeah, let's get a picture of what's her name? I always forget her name. Simon? Mary, is it Mary Simon? Mary Simon. Yeah, that's her. Let's get some images here. Where's her with her medals? No medals, no medals, no medals. Oh, I don't have any recent pictures. She's only got like the Order of Canada in this one. Yeah, because she was like stacked last time I saw her. 4 medals. Every picture I see here's got a few more. Oh man, Mary Simon in uniform. Is this her? Governor General Mary Simon. Yeah, this is her here. All right, just pulling her up. So she's got, what is that? A king? Is this recent? That's 2 years ago. I'm sure she's got more now, man. So what's that? Like the King's Jubilee? Queen's, is there a Queen's Jubilee there? A CD? What's that blue and white one? I don't know what that one is. Yeah. So yeah, she's doing well, man. She's doing well. She's got the Order of Canada. Is that the is that the Order of Canada around her neck? Yeah, it's the Order of Canada. Yeah, she's doing well. She's doing real well. Okay. Simon's on. Oh, we got him down here. Companion of the Order of Canada, Commander of the Order of Military Merit, Commander of the Order of Merit of Police Forces, not pictured. Dame of the Justice, the Most Venerable Order, the Hospital St. John, Officer of the Nationality of Quebec, not pictured. 125th Anniversary of the Confederation, Canada Medal, Queen Elizabeth II Golden Jubilee, yeah. Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee, yeah. Canadian Forces Decoration, received upon taking office, not following 12 years of cast service. Yeah, why should she get it then? Why should she get? That's weird. Other medals and awards not included. Governor General's Northern Medal, Gold. Wow, man, just get stacked with medals. Like if you're one of our adversaries, like China, Russia, whatever, and you're like, all right, who's our head of state? And you see that, like, it's like, oh man, like was she like brave in the face of the enemy? Like, why did she? It's like, no, it was just appointed by the prime minister, and then just like your old Soviet era like commanders that just had like 2 rows of medals, just like lining their chest. We kind of do the same thing. We don't do it for our troops though, but our Governor General, she's got to look legit with all of this accoutrement. Yeah, good for her. Good for her. And Desiree, it's the same for Cold War vets. A lot of them feel ignored despite having to serve on foreign bases. Yeah, I feel for you guys, man. You guys had to sit around and like hopefully not have the Russians run over you, but then on top of that, there was just like no major conflicts to go get dirty in. Just born at the wrong time. Just born at a wrong time. Still served though. Still away from home. The unknowing of whether or not, the Russians are going to storm through Poland, hit Western Europe. Yeah, I mean, there's just a ton of things that structurally need to change, and the point of all this is to get to the heart of the matter, which is like we need to be way more organized, and being organized requires face-to-face shit. And I've come up with an idea here, folks, and I'm going to share it with you. The Veterans on the Canal. Okay, so this is the first time I share it openly. I've been talking about it with a select group of people, but it's on like Donkey Kong. So September 27th, 2025, Veterans on a Canal here in Montreal. We're going to be putting together our first event. We're going to have food. We're going to have brews. We're going to walk along the beautiful canal here in Montreal. We're going to bring our flags. We're going to have a good time. This is going to be modeled in the style of a silky hike in the United States, which I had the honor of attending last year. We're going to smoke. We're going to joke. But more importantly, we're going to organize and we're going to take action. We're going to start building our community and building a healthy community and then using it as a springboard to start demanding change. We can do this. I mean, we fought the most complex war in history. We were asked to be the tactical corporal. We were asked to do over and above more than any other troops ever had to do in any war at any point. We had to be masters of coin or counterinsurgency. We had to ensure that we knew how to detain prisoners. Not only that, we had to, in my case, manage a civilian population. The demands that were put on us were enormous. The responsibility was enormous. The politicians had no idea what they were doing. But what they did is create hyper resilient, hyper capable veterans like us. And that's why now, in order to take the next step forward, we could be massively influential in our communities. I see it happening in the US. I see the grunt style guys and their gals and their foundation making changes in their community because they stand for something and they don't back down. They organize, they show up physically. And until we start getting heard, not behind a screen, because that doesn't do anything. You can complain on Twitter all you want and get upset and go, yell into a pillow. It doesn't do anything. You got to physically show up and make people aware that you're there. You don't have to be politically motivated, but we're losing friends. We're losing family on the regular, whether it's the suicide, whether it's the illness, it doesn't matter. We need to make sure that we look after our own. Nobody's going to do it from the top. Nobody's coming to save us. We got to do it ourselves. And so that's why I'm going to be organizing this event. So there's going to be more to follow on this. If you guys are excited, let me know in the comments. If you guys are in the Montreal area, reach out. Putting together the team. Be awesome to have 50 of us. That's my goal for this first one. 50 of us walking down the canal, having a good time. Bring your unit flags. Wear your cool civilian armor. Wear, silkies. I know it's not something here in Canada, but if you like wearing silkies, throw them on and we'll go have a good time. Because I'm fed up with this attitude of like, oh, what are we going to do? We're veterans. We're all hurting. Woe is me. Nah, man, that's not us. We've been pigeonholed into this mentality of being a victim because everybody's a victim these days. We're not victims. You know that. I know that. We're not victims. We volunteered to go. I was proud to go. But we need to make sure that our health is looked after, and nobody's doing it. Nobody's doing it. Okay. We need access to things like psilocybin. We need access to psychedelic therapy. This country is very progressive with its drug laws. You can carry 2.5 grams of crack cocaine. But if you decide that you want to go do an ibogaine treatment or, God forbid, ayahuasca, you're fucking toast. You're toast. So it's time for politicians to hear us and other folks that are friendly to the cause to hear us as well, because we're not just going to fade into the distance. Right? We're still young. Still got, at least I do anyways. I still got plenty of gas and I want to share with you folks. So one last thing. Thanks for tuning in, folks. I'm going to be popping off pretty soon. I got to go get some burgers. We're doing some burgers last day of school. Maybe crack a few wobbly pops. If you guys are too, let me know in the comments. But I want to share the post from somebody who's making a difference in the in publishing journalistic world, who actually cares about veteran stuff. Hey, look, who would have thought? So Anna Farrow, I taught her son actually, and her son is actually a member of the Canadian Armed Forces. But she wrote a great article. It's called "It'll Take More Than Bureaucratic Billions to Pull Canada's Military Out of Its Death Spiral." Our soldiers have stories, but since Christy Blatchford left us, no one in our media is interested in telling them. And I had the privilege of being able to chat with her and get quoted in the article. So if you want to go check it out, it's on her Substack. This article is absolutely free. Go follow, and I'm sure she'll be pumping out a lot more content in the future because I mean, we don't have a lot of folks commenting on veterans issues or CAF issues, period, unless it's scandalous and has to deal with, sexual assault and all the negative stuff. But in this case here, we're talking about what the path is forward. And if you have something to say, get out there, start talking. All right. We need more of you. So thanks, Anna, for asking for my point of view, if it means anything. And thanks to you for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. Go get your stickers. Corporal for Life. Go get your sticker. Collab. I don't know if it's our only collab, but it's our first collab. So get your sticker. Go get your book. Hard to Fuck Up, available on Amazon. Be sure to leave a review. Come to the book launch on the 28th. So not this Saturday, the Saturday after. If you're in the Montreal area, would love to see you there. And thanks to our sponsors, Firm Tech and Becoming Home, for making this show happen. All right, that's it for me. Train hard, fight easy. See you in the next one. Peace.